The first generation iPhone was announced by the Apple CEO Steve Jobs on January 9, 2007. Since then, Apple has released new iPhone models and iOS updates every year. As of November 1, 2018, more than 2.2 billion iPhones had been sold. As of 2022, the iPhone will account for 15.6% of the global smartphone market share. The iPhone was the first mobile phone with multi-touch technology. Since the launch of the iPhone, it has gained larger screen sizes, video recording, waterproofing, and many features for convenience. Until the iPhone 8 and 8 Plus, iPhones had a single button on the front panel with a Touch ID fingerprint sensor. Since the iPhone 10, iPhone models have switched to a nearly bezel-less front screen design with Face ID and gesture-activated app switching. Touch ID is still used for Apple's currently manufactured iPhone SE series. Along with Android, the iPhone is one of the two largest smartphone platforms in the world and makes up a large part of the luxury market. The iPhone brought Apple great profits, making it one of the most valuable publicly traded companies in the world. The first generation iPhone was described as a revolution in the mobile phone industry, and other models have also garnered praise. The iPhone has been credited with popularizing the smartphone and slate form factor and creating a large market for smartphone apps, or the app economy. As of January 2017, Apple's App Store contained more than 2.2 million iPhone applications. Development of the Apple smartphone began in 2004, when Apple began assembling a team of 1,000 employees led by hardware engineer Tony Fadell, software engineer Scott Forstall, and designer Jony Ive to work on the highly confidential Project Purple. Then Apple CEO Steve Jobs shifted the initial focus from the tablet, which was later redesigned in the form of the iPad, to the phone. Apple created the device during a secret collaboration with Singular Wireless, later renamed it and T-Mobility, at the time, with an estimated development cost of $150 million over 30 months. According to Jobs, in 1998, the I in iMac, and thus iPod, iPhone, and iPad, stands for Internet, Individual, Instruct, Inform, and Inspire. Apple rejected the design by committee approach that brought Motorola the ROKR E1, a largely unsuccessful iTunes phone made in collaboration with Motorola. Among other shortcomings, the ROKR E1 firmware limited storage to only 100 iTunes songs to avoid competition with Apple's iPod Nano. Singular gave Apple the freedom to develop iPhone hardware and software in-house, a rare practice at the time, and paid Apple a fraction of its monthly service revenue, up until the iPhone 3G, in exchange for 4 years of exclusive US sales, until 2011. In the blog of Wikipedia says that the iPhone 4 was announced on June 7, 2010, at WWDC 2010, and introduced a redesigned body incorporating a stainless steel frame and a rear glass panel. At release, the iPhone 4 was marketed as the world's thinnest smartphone. It uses the Apple A4 processor, being the first iPhone to use an Apple custom-designed chip. It introduced the Retina display, having 4 times the display resolution of preceding iPhones, and was the highest resolution smartphone screen at release. A front-facing camera was also introduced, enabling video calling functionality via FaceTime. The iPhone 5S and iPhone 5C were announced on September 10, 2013. The iPhone 5S included a 64-bit A7 processor, becoming the first ever 64-bit smartphone. It also introduced the Touch ID fingerprint authentication sensor. The iPhone 5C was a lower-cost device that incorporated hardware from the iPhone 5 into a series of colorful plastic frames. On September 9, 2014, Apple introduced the iPhone 6 and iPhone 6 Plus, and included significantly larger screens than the iPhone 5S, at 4.7-inch and 5.5-inch respectively. The Apple Watch was also introduced on the same day and is a smartwatch that operates in conjunction with a connected iPhone. The iPhone 6s and 6s Plus were introduced on September 9, 2015, and included a more bend-resistant frame made of a stronger aluminum alloy, as well as a higher-resolution 12-megapixel main camera capable of 4K video recording. The iPhone 7 and 7 Plus were announced on September 7, 2016, which introduced larger camera sensors, IP67, certified water and dust resistance, and a quad Core A10 Fusion processor utilizing big optical image stabilization was added to the 7's camera. A second telephoto camera lens was added on the 7 Plus, enabling 2x optical zoom and portrait photography mode, which simulates booked-in photos. The iPhone 8, 8 Plus, and iPhone X were announced on September 12, 2017, in Apple's first event held at the Steve Jobs Theater in Apple Park. All models featured rear glass panel designs akin to the iPhone 4, wireless charging, and a Hexa-Core A11 Bionic chip with Neural Engine AI accelerator hardware. The iPhone 12, 12 mini, 12 Pro, and 12 Pro Max were announced via a live stream event on October 13, 2020. The iPhone 12 mini introduced a smaller 5.4-inch screen, while the 12 Pro and 12 Pro Max had larger screens of 6.1-inch and 6.7-inch respectively. The iPhone 13, 13 mini, 13 Pro, and 13 Pro Max were announced via a live stream event on September 14, 2021. The iPhone 13 Pro and 13 Pro Max additionally introduced smoother adaptive 120Hz refresh rate promotion technology in its OLED display, and 3x optical zoom in the telephoto lens. The iPhone 14, 14 Plus, 14 Pro, and 14 Pro Max were announced on September 7, 2022. All models introduced satellite phone emergency calling functionality. The iPhone 14 Plus introduced the large 6.7-inch screen size, first seen on the iPhone 12 Pro Max, into a lower-cost device. Initial reviews of the iPhone 14 and iPhone 14 Plus were positive but emphasized that the device is only an incremental upgrade over the iPhone 13, featuring the same overall design, the same A15 Bionic chip with an additional GPU core, and minor improvements. For rear and front camera, the display on the standard iPhone 14 is almost identical to the display on the iPhone 13. There are other options offering more advanced 120Hz displays for around the same price. It's a good screen, but the competition here is running around Apple. Android phones from flagships to the $350 Samsung A53 5G offer screens with 120Hz refresh rates. It's not a deal breaker, but it's an area where the standard iPhone seems to be overdue for an update. The iPhone 14 features the same A15 Bionic chip that powered the iPhone 13 Pro and iPhone 13 Pro Max. Compared to the A15 Bionic chip in last year's standard iPhone 13, the iPhone 14 chip has one more GPU core. iPhone 14 is fast with smooth animations and no performance hiccups. iPhone 14 also features an improved internal design that manages heat better, allowing users to play high-intensity games for longer without the device overheating. The device managed to remain cool to the touch during gaming, and the phone remains powerful in terms of performance. The iPhone May 14 used last year's A15 Bionic processor, but it's still a capable phone that holds its own against this year's flagships. My Royal Match Hot Wheels while writing my thoughts on the iPhone 14 Pro to other reviewers went smoothly, and overall, the phone stayed cool to the touch. When I repeatedly tested the selfie camera's autofocus in low light, it got warm, but not a concern. Apple is working to make its modem chips designed in-house, like Apple's Silicon chips and A-series chips, which will allow the company to reduce its reliance on modem chip vendors. Apple has been working on the modem for several years, and development accelerated after Apple acquired most of Intel's smartphone division in 2019. Apple could switch to its own 5G modems as early as 2023. Once Apple comes up with its own modem designs, Qualcomm will no longer be needed. 2023 is the earliest date, but many rumors have suggested that Apple's chip supplier TSMC will be ready to produce Apple's modem chips in 2023. Several rumors have suggested that Apple is working on a way to place the Face ID hardware under the display to get rid of the notch. It was originally thought that Apple could adopt Face ID under the display as early as 2022, but display components like the infrared camera won't move under the display until 2023 or 2024. It's fun to experiment. Find any place with an object close and in the background, or stage something, and try it. Play around with tap to focus or double tap an object to activate autofocus on it. When you're done, open the Photos app and play around with the video editing to change the focus from the original shot. You can do this on any iPhone, but a lot of people haven't done it yet, and it could save your life one day. So, setting up your new iPhone is the perfect time to open the Health app, where you can enter important medical ID information and set up an emergency contact. Health IDs can display critical health information or allergies on the lock screen, and an emergency contact is someone who can be called in an emergency by pressing and holding the side and volume buttons. I hope so. I clear everything, but if you have any questions, you can simply ask me in the comments section below.